Chosen one, you must acknowledge that your ascension was never a matter of luck, but a direct result of your alignment with purpose, which is exactly why your intuition proved to be correct. They were responsible for the psychic attacks and mental issues you encountered, just as your gifts were sharpening. That low hum of unease you felt while your finances were climbing and your foundation was solid was not paranoia, but a prophetic warning that your progress was being monitored by those who could not handle your light. Torge, a conversation was happening that you were not invited to. Not one conversation, many, in different spaces between different people, all of them about you. This was not idle gossip. It had purpose behind it. People were comparing notes, sharing information, and coordinating a perspective designed to prepare the ground for what came next. Some of these people were family. That word is supposed to land like a stone. These were people who sat at your table, who knew your history, who had access to the fears you never made public, the soft spots you only revealed in private, the details that would take a stranger years to learn. And yet here they were, actively participating in something being built against you. Some came from your community, people who spoke the language of spirituality and growth to your face while operating from an entirely different agenda when you were not present. They used the vocabulary. They understood exactly what someone on your path looked like from the outside, which gave them cover to stand close without ever genuinely being for you. And some went beyond conversation. They invested in your decline with real resources and real coordination. They located a practitioner operating in a realm most people publicly pretend does not exist, and they paid to have something sent directly toward you. Blue-eyed, hold on to that detail. It becomes critical later. For now, understand this. You were the one person in this situation who should have been most informed, and you had the least visibility on what was being constructed around you. Blue-eyed, that is about to change. Blue-eyed, something shifted, and you felt it before you could name it. You noticed it first in your sleep. The quality of your rest changed. You were not necessarily sleeping less, but the sleep stopped restoring you. You would wake up more depleted than when you closed your eyes, as though your body had been working against something invisible all night. Then the anxiety arrived, not the kind attached to a specific outcome or a real and present threat. This kind was sourceless and free-floating, a static living in your chest with no off switch. You could be in a completely safe environment, and it would still be there, pressing, humming, insisting that something was wrong when nothing visible confirmed it. Then came the thoughts that did not feel like yours. There were impulses toward choices misaligned with your values. Sudden waves of self-doubt arrived about gifts that had been guiding you accurately for years. A growing sense settled in that your own perception was unreliable, that you could no longer trust what you felt. Here is the most sophisticated part of what was being done to you. Every symptom you experienced had a clean clinical label: panic disorder, anxiety, depression, dissociation, and when you tried to describe the more specific dimensions, the sense that it was coming from outside, the fact that it intensified around certain people and certain places, that part got filed under symptoms of anxiety rather than treated as evidence pointing toward the actual source. The system had a category for what you were experiencing. It just had the wrong explanation for why it was happening. But here is what the people behind this did not account for. Your discernment did not go all the way down. It could be clouded. It could be buried under manufactured noise, but it could not be destroyed, because discernment like yours is not a skill that can be unlearned under pressure. It is structural. It is part of who you are at a foundational level, and even under the heaviest pressure it had ever faced, something in you kept quietly, persistently doing its job. You had a feeling about a specific person. You received a dream too precise to be random. You felt a pull away from a situation so strong that no rational argument could override it. These were small signals, small flags, your gift refusing to go completely silent, even while under direct attack. That survival of your discernment is the foundation of everything that follows. And ink the mechanics of what was done to you is part of how you ensure it never lands the same way again. Dims, your mind was targeted first, not your finances, not your relationships, but your perception, your ability to trust what you know. That sequence was not accidental, it was strategic. If this resonates with your inner knowing, hype this video to help fellow chosen ones find their way here. Torshin Feintor. Here is the logic behind it. If you lose finances, you can rebuild them. If you lose a relationship, you can form new ones. But if you lose trust in your own perception, if you arrive at the place where you genuinely do not know whether what you are sensing is accurate, then every other part of your life becomes vulnerable simultaneously. Every decision you make, every move in every area of your life, runs through the filter of your perception. Compromise the filter, and everything downstream is compromised with it. What in solitude peace, the peace up you wits the filter. Then watch the rest collapse without any further direct intervention. The panic attacks that arrived were not random. When panic is induced psychically rather than produced organically, it carries a recognizable signature. It arrives without a trigger proportional to its intensity. It leaves a residue of dread that does not dissolve after the episode passes. Over time, it trains the nervous system into constant low-level vigilance, scanning, anticipating, bracing. That state depletes the spiritual and cognitive resources needed to operate at full capacity, and it makes your own inner voice feel unreliable. The intent was to drain you slowly, to erode your confidence through repeated small impacts, rather than one dramatic blow, and to bring you quietly and gradually to the conclusion that you were unstable, that your gifts were not real, that your perception had always been the problem. This was sustained, it was patient, it was an ongoing investment, and patient, sustained investment in another person's decline is not the behavior of someone mildly irritated. It is the behavior of someone genuinely afraid of what you are capable of becoming. You're rising frightened people that much. Hold that not as ego, but as information. The scale of what was built against you is the most accurate external measurement of your actual power that you will ever receive. Not all at once, and not in a single dramatic moment. The picture developed the way clarity always develops, edge by edge, detail by detail, until the full image became undeniable. It started with small inconsistencies. Something someone said contradicted what you had been told. A reaction from someone was slightly too eager when you mentioned struggling. A pattern emerged in who was present during your worst moments of confusion, and who disappeared when things started clarifying. Each thing seemed explainable on its own, but you were no longer explaining each thing away individually. You were collecting them. Something told you to collect them. That was your gift operating under maximum pressure, doing exactly what it was built to do, gathering evidence while you were still unsure what case it was building. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something. But talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. Todin fein telomprid. Todin fein pretolkotel hydrispedid sothenastindid. You've noticed it. Chosen one channels getting silenced, videos pulled, voices removed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us. But we will not give up our voice, and neither should you. That's why joining Destiny Engine is a 360 win. You support your favorite channels and fuel your own rise at the same time. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope, their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your destiny engine for $7 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Then the information arriving through your dreams became more specific. These were not the dreams that processed daily anxiety. These felt instructional. Something was showing you people, situations, and configurations you had not consciously assembled. And when you woke up, those images felt like briefings, like guidance passing through the one channel the attack had not fully locked down. You named what you were beginning to understand. You told someone that something deliberate was being done to you, that the source was closer than anyone wanted to believe, that what you were experiencing was not coincidental hardship, it was engineered. Not a noting, most people did not receive that well. That was fine, because you were not saying it for their comfort. You were testing your own conviction, and your conviction held. Every piece fit with every other piece. The pattern you were mapping was not a paranoid mind forcing random events into a false shape. It was a real pattern. The accusation of paranoia was the cover they were counting on you to believe. The truth underneath it was the actual map. And the map was pointing somewhere very specific. There is a turning point within the discovery that deserves its own focus, because it is the moment everything shifted internally before anything changed in the world outside of you. You stopped qualifying what you knew. Until that moment, every time you sensed something, you followed it immediately with doubt. Maybe I am reading too much into this. Maybe I am projecting. That self-qualification was not humility. It was conditioning installed by the attack itself, manufactured self-doubt, making you preemptively discredit yourself so that external discrediting required less effort. Not a noting, and then something in you simply stopped doing it. Maybe it was one piece of evidence too precise to dismiss. Maybe it was a dream so specific that your mind could not generate a reasonable alternative explanation. Whatever the moment was, you stopped apologizing for your perception. The instant you stopped apologizing for it, your perception came back online fully. Everything you had been sensing but suppressing, every signal your gift had been raising, that your conditioned self-doubt had been filing away as unreliable, all of it was still there. It was waiting. It was accurate. It was complete. Not in you had been right about all of it, the entire time. That moment matters far beyond the emotional relief of it. The attack was specifically engineered to prevent you from arriving at that clarity. It was designed to keep you perpetually one step away from full sight. And you got there anyway, not because the attack failed to land, because it did land, but because you refused to permanently abandon your own knowing, even when doing so would have been the easier path. That refusal is the most consequential thing you did throughout this entire experience. You did not announce it. Not announce it, or that is the first thing to understand about what you did next. You did not hold a meeting. You did not issue an explanation. You gave nobody the opportunity to talk you out of it. You moved the way someone moves when they have already seen the outcome and simply need to act on what they know, quietly, precisely, with nothing on your face that told the watching world what was happening inside you. You cut someone off, or you left something, or you pivoted sharply away from a direction you had been committed to, not because you had built a rational case with enough evidence to satisfy every skeptic, but because something in you said now, and you had finally learned to trust now without negotiating with it first. To anyone observing from the outside, that move looked unexplainable, Lock to the people coordinating against you. It looked like exactly what they had been working to prevent, because your presence in a specific position was essential to the final piece of what they had constructed. You stepped out at the last moment, not because you had seen every detail of what was waiting, but because your gift said move, and you moved. Lock. Consider what that means. All of that coordination, all of those resources, all of that sustained effort, and the one thing that dismantled it was the exact ability they had spent all of that energy trying to destroy. Your discernment saved you from a trap built specifically because of your discernment. When you left, the trap did not disappear. It remained active. The people who built it were so certain you would eventually return that they kept it maintained and ready. Something always falls into the pit that was dug for someone else, and sure enough it did. The part of this that most people underestimate is what your quiet exit actually accomplished on the other side. When you withdrew without explanation, without confrontation, without giving anyone the dramatic response they had scripted for, you took away their next move. Every counter-move they prepared was built around a specific version of your reaction. They were ready for you to fight, beg for clarity, or negotiate. They were completely unprepared for silence. Your silence created maximum uncertainty in people who were relying on predictability to keep their coordination functioning. They did not know what you knew. They did not know who you had told. They did not know whether you were sitting on evidence or waiting for the right moment to act. Every day you stayed quiet and kept advancing was another day they had to sit with the possibility that exposure was coming in a form they could not intercept, or they could not. That uncertainty fractured what had been coordinated. People who build together in darkness only hold their agreements while everyone feels the plan is secure. The moment that security wavers, individuals begin quietly separating themselves, because personal protection becomes the priority. Nobody wants to be visibly attached to something when exposure arrives. Your silence, which cost you nothing, did more damage to that coordination than any direct confrontation would have. Walking away cleanly and staying quiet is one of the most powerful moves available to someone who genuinely understands the mechanics of what was done to them. You made that move, and it landed exactly as it was supposed to. Or you had predicted something. Before there was evidence, before it was visible, before anyone with only external information could have known, you named what was coming, and it came. It arrived exactly as the pattern you identified, exactly as the collapse you described, exactly as the exposure you had foreseen, not through calculation or research, but through pure sight. And that sight is now standing in public where it cannot be reframed or dismissed. What makes this the climax is the collision between two competing versions of reality. One version, the one being maintained by the people who attacked you, said you were unstable, unreliable, paranoid, and delusional, someone whose warnings came from a fractured mind rather than a genuine gift. Your version said you could see clearly, that what you saw was real, and that confirmation was on its way. Stolpheus. The confirmation arrived, and beyond your prediction proving accurate, the source of the attack itself is becoming exposed. The architecture of what was done to you is cracking. People are talking. Actions are producing consequences that trace directly back to the intentions behind them. What was meant to stay invisible is surfacing. What was sent toward you did not penetrate. It returned, multiplied, landing on every person who touched it in their finances, their health, their relationships, their peace, their sleep. That is the mechanics of what happens when dark intent is directed at someone operating under genuine divine protection. The protection does not announce itself. It simply causes the sent energy to return to its origin with interest. The people who funded your breakdown are the ones experiencing breakdown. The trap designed for you closed around the people who built it. The practitioner hired to end you is now dealing with a reversal they cannot explain because they were not equipped for what comes back when the protection level of the target exceeds what they accurately assessed. Todd, you predicted it. It happened. Your knowing was confirmed. Everything you held on to through the confusion, through the doubt, through the isolation, you were right about all of it. You are going to feel the pull to announce it, to make sure every person who dismissed you, doubted you, or contributed to the narrative of your instability receives the proof directly and understands what it means when do not do it. Not because staying quiet is spiritually required, but because staying quiet is strategically dominant. The person who has genuinely won does not need to broadcast the victory. The victory broadcasts itself. And the quieter you stand while the proof works, the more undeniable your authority becomes. Silence in the aftermath of vindication is one of the most powerful positions available to someone who has already demonstrated that they see further than those around them. Watch without inserting yourself, without ceremony. Those who coordinated against you are now in conflict with each other. That is the natural consequence of collaboration built on dark intent. There is no loyalty inside that kind of agreement. The shared goal was the only binding force. When the goal collapsed, so did the agreement. Blame is being distributed. The financial investment produced no return. Everyone involved is now quietly distancing from the wreckage. Those who used family access as a weapon are experiencing a specific category of spiritual consequence, the kind that comes from betraying someone in your own bloodline. What those individuals are navigating right now is not something ordinary solutions are addressing. The practitioner who was hired is dealing with a reversal. What was directed toward you returned to its source. Something went catastrophically wrong, and they cannot fully diagnose why, because they were operating against a target whose protection level exceeded their accurate assessment. The pit they dug is now their address. You are standing outside of all of it, free, clear, advancing, and none of what is currently unfolding required your participation. You simply refused to be destroyed and stepped out of the way. Divine order handled the rest. Your hands are clean. Your energy is clean. Keep them that way. Door. You cannot purchase what you now possess. Credibility forged through persecution and confirmed through prophecy is the most durable kind in existence. Nobody can take it. Nobody can reframe it as coincidence when the specificity is as precise as yours has been. You said something was coming. It came. That sentence is the entire argument, and nothing needs to be appended to it. You are not performing your gifts right now. You are simply living them. You are moving through your life, operating in your natural discernment, making moves based on what you know, and the results are speaking at a volume that requires no amplification from you. That is what dominance actually looks like. It is not aggression. It is not retaliation. It is the quiet, unshakable authority of someone who was right when everyone said otherwise, and who is still moving when everyone predicted a collapse. 1-4. Something you are doing is being seen in a new way. Whatever the medium, a spotlight has found you, not because you chased visibility, but because genuine sight is magnetic. In a world saturated with performance and carefully managed impressions, encountering someone who actually knows things is both jarring and undeniable. People are drawn to it. People are arriving to what you carry because what you carry is real, and real does not need to be marketed. It needs to be expressed. The Hond. You are expressing it now without the static that was deliberately installed in your signal. You are broadcasting clearly for the first time in a long time, and the reception is extraordinary. The Hond. This is the exact outcome that was being invested against, and it is happening anyway, because it was never contingent on anyone's permission. It was always contingent on your purpose, and your purpose is sealed. You spent an extended period in the dark, carrying knowledge that nobody around you would validate. Out of that experience, you developed a very specific internal toughness, the toughness of someone who learned to be their own witness, to operate from knowing without external confirmation, to keep moving without applause. People who dismissed you are quietly recalibrating. The gifts that were mocked are being recognized, and part of you almost does not know how to receive that, because you built an entire inner architecture around not needing it. Your system needs a moment to register that the pressure is actually off. The biak, botsing, that is a completely natural response. Let it land at whatever pace it needs to. You do not have to perform celebration before you have genuinely processed what you survived to arrive here. But receive it fully, without minimizing it, without pivoting to the next challenge before absorbing this one. What you held on to, your perception, your knowing, your commitment to your own truth under coordinated psychic attack, that is a rare thing. Most people fold under far less sustained pressure. You did not. One whole. Let yourself know that fully, not as ego but as fuel. People who skip the receipt of their victories carry a subtle depletion into the next chapter, a haunting sense that nothing is ever quite enough because they never fully inhabited what they earned. Inhabit this one. You earned it in a way that most people will never fully understand. The battle is over. Now you restore. You store. This is where many people rush. The instinct is to accelerate immediately, but there is a necessary step between the end of what you survived and the full expression of what is coming next. Skipping it creates a leak. Your body carried this physically. Your body carried this physically. Every panic attack, every depleted morning, every day of manufactured fog, every moment of anxiety pressing on your chest with no visible source. Your body was on the front line for the entire duration, and it now needs to know, at a cellular level, that the siege is over. Being intentional about what you put in matters at a higher level than before. You are recalibrating. The physical body and the spiritual field are not separate systems. They are the same system, expressing in different dimensions. When dark energy is placed in your field, the body absorbs residue. When the field is cleared, the body still holds what it stored. Residue requires active cleansing, not just the passage of time. Though, briefing, you already know what needs to be removed. Something in you has been pointing at it consistently. Honor that guidance now, without delay or negotiation. Your body has been asking, and it has earned the right to be heard. Briefing. The people closest to you also deserve a clear-eyed assessment. The ones who stood with you during the worst of it, who did not flinch when you named what was happening, who showed up without being asked, those people are irreplaceable. Protect those connections, invest in them deliberately. The ones who maintained convenient neutrality while you were under attack, or who quietly participated in the doubt, reassess the access you extend to them, not from bitterness, but from clarity. Proximity to you is a privilege, not an entitlement. Closeness without genuine protection is not a neutral position. It is a risk to everything you are building. What you are walking into requires a clean vessel, a protected inner circle, and a body that has been genuinely restored. This preparation is not optional at the level you are now operating. You now know what a psychic attack feels like from the inside. That knowledge is not just a scar, it is a permanent defensive upgrade. Most people who experience something like this get targeted again, not because they are weak, but because they healed the symptoms without diagnosing the vulnerability that was exploited the first time. The same opening was used again because it was never closed. You are not going to make that mistake. The opening that was found was a specific kind of trust. It was not careless trust. You are discerning, and you never extended access loosely. but there is a particular trust that people with genuine spiritual gifts extend to others who share similar language, proximity through family or community, or apparent alignment with their path. It is not naivety. It is the natural expression of someone operating from good faith, and that precise good faith was the opening that got exploited. Going forward, shared vocabulary is no longer a credential on its own, and proximity is no longer a credential on its own. What you are now looking for, and what your gift is specifically calibrated to detect, is consistency between what someone expresses and what their energy actually does over time. Words can be learned. Spiritual language can be performed convincingly. Energy is much harder to sustain as a performance across extended periods. Your discernment, sharpened by this experience, is now tuned to that exact frequency. What you do, Kurbechen, you are also going to be more deliberate about what you share and when. This is not about being secretive, because secrecy contracts energy. It is about being selective. Certain information about your plans, your progress and your next moves is not for general circulation. Detailed information in the wrong hands functions as operational intelligence for those who want to prevent your success. You are not in the business of providing that. Your maintenance practices, the ones that keep your field clear, your body clean and your connection to divine guidance open, are now non-negotiable. They are load-bearing. Everything else is built on top of them. Protect your signal. Your signal is your most strategic asset. Guard it with the same seriousness with which others tried to destroy it. Watch how quickly things begin to move now, when blockages are removed at every level simultaneously, spiritual, relational, energetic. The natural flow of what is meant for you does not trickle in. It rushes. It was never gone. It was held at the gate, and the gate is open now. Resources are among the first things to shift, because financial stability was one of the primary targets of the attack. The assault did not only go after your mind and your gifts, it went after your ability to build material foundations that give your purpose traction in the world. Some of what was supposed to reach you was intercepted. Those redirected resources and opportunities are now completing the longer path back to you. Devenant, this is not about increasing your effort. You are already working hard. This is about alignment, producing what disciplined effort alone cannot generate. When you operate in your authentic gifts, with your discernment fully functional and the interference cleared from your path, the universe moves on your behalf at a pace that can feel disorienting after the grinding resistance of the last season. Stay fully authentic. This is not the moment to dilute what you carry in order to reach a wider audience faster. The right audience finds genuine things. Performance costs you the one asset currently working most powerfully in your favor, the credibility of someone who has been proven accurate under sustained pressure. Stay in your gifts. Stay in your truth. What you were built to release into the world is extraordinary. You are not the same person who was ascending at the beginning of this Todobid. That is not a cliché. It is a precise and measurable truth. The version of you that existed before this had gifts, had discernment, had protection, but that version had not yet been tested under conditions designed specifically to break what made you powerful. That version had not yet stood in a fire, built to consume the most essential parts of who you are. That version had not yet discovered what remains when everything that can be stripped away gets stripped away, when it is news to the vital points. Now you know what remains. What you found underneath all of that, under the confusion, the manufactured doubt, the panic, the isolation, is something that cannot be built by any experience except the one you just had. It is not courage exactly, because courage can be depleted. It is something more like rootedness, a groundedness that reaches beneath your personality, beneath your history, into something in you that is older than your own conscious memory. That is the level you are operating from now. Your discernment is sharper than it has ever been, not despite the attempt to destroy it, but because of it. The attack forced it to function under maximum resistance. Any capacity that operates under that kind of sustained pressure either breaks or becomes something new. Yours became something new. You can now read people, situations, and energy with a speed and accuracy that is qualitatively different from before. You know what manufactured confusion feels like from the inside. You know its signature. You can identify it within moments of exposure, which means it will never carry the same power over you again. Your limits are absolute now, not harsh, not reactive, but absolute. You are not afraid of enforcing them. You are clear about what they protect. That clarity cannot be moved by guilt, by familiarity, or by the specific manipulation these particular people were skilled at applying to you. The version of you that those methods worked on is not coming back. What they tried to destroy has been refined into something beyond their reach, and the people around you can feel that even when they cannot name exactly what they are sensing. There is something you carry now that you did not have before any of this began. Do. You carry a testimony. Do. A testimony is not simply an account of what happened to you. A testimony is evidence. Documented proof that a specific kind of attack was launched, was resisted, and was survived with the gifts intact and the purpose accelerated. It is proof that what was supposed to end you did not end you. For the people currently in the middle of their own version of what you went through, the ones right now experiencing sourceless anxiety, thoughts that do not feel like their own, attacks on their perception, unexplainable mental heaviness, your testimony is the first clear signal they will receive that they are not imagining things. It confirms that what they are experiencing has a source, that it can be survived, and that there is a path forward where they come out the way you are coming out now. That responsibility multiplies everything you are building. The people arriving to what you do are not arriving randomly. They are being pulled by a recognition that you have been somewhere they are currently navigating, and that you came back with the map. What you now have to offer is specific, lived knowledge of what a psychic attack looks and feels like from the inside, what it does to the mind and the nervous system, and what it means to trust your way through it when every manufactured signal insists your perception cannot be trusted. That knowledge, shared with intention, will change lives. Use it with purpose, not to perform what you survived, but to give the people currently in the confusion what you most needed when you were inside of it. Give them someone who looks them in the eye and says clearly, I know exactly what this is. I know it has a source. I know you are not losing your mind, and I know you are going to make it through. That is your gift, operating at its full dimension, discernment, deployed in service of everyone who needs to see someone further down the road. Confirm that the road continues. You felt at the start, that sense of something watching, something tracking your ascent. It was not only the people plotting against you. Oh, it was this moment, this version of you, this level. It was the future keeping its eye on the present, making sure you made it through. It was your destiny, sending you that hum as both a warning and a promise at once, warning that something was coming, and promising that you were going to come through it in a way that transforms you completely. Both were true, both were delivered, both are now confirmed. Oh, you made it, not just out of the attack into something, into a level of clarity, power and purpose that could not have been reached by any less demanding road. They tried to end you. They built you instead. Now go do what you came here to do. The sea is wide. The people who need you are already looking for your light, and you are lit.